Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday Fire. Strange episode today. We're going to cover everything that went down the last 24 hours and also recap some of the big items for the week. Thank you, Nick M, T&D Tesla, Sean Donnelly, Martello, Andy, everybody else, K8. Thank you all for coming. It's the weekend. Wow, what'll happen this weekend? Will crypto pump? Let's look at some of the data and jump into it. So this one's called SBR Massacre, but what actually got massacred? Was it net good? Was it net bad? Let's find out. And this is not financial advice. Again, happy weekend. I love the weekends. This is from Krihanek. Loving being in your Patreon. I usually hate it when I'm sent multiple emails every day, but I look forward to everything you send to me. Thank you. That's good. Do Travels. Thank you as well for coming. Let's get into the story. First of all, fear and greed is creeping back up from that low of 10, which was a multi-year low. We're now at 34. Not bad. We're creeping back up. But the stock market is still in extreme fear. And we see that S&P 500 is breaking through support levels. We see names like Tesla are back at the same price they were on the 28th of December, 2020. Hard to believe. That's volatility, ladies and gentlemen. And there are other assets as well. Ethereum is at the same price it was 4 years ago, too. So sometimes in markets, things don't go up only. And we'll break that down today as well. Now, this is the kind of SBR update. Shout out to Leonidas, friend of Wrecked Mando. This is kind of funny. So let me get this straight. If there's no strategic reserve, we sell. And if there is one, we also sell. And that's what freaked people out a bit yesterday is we saw extreme volatility. We saw the price fall $5,000 in minutes. Then we saw it rise back up again to over 90,000 this morning. Let me check the real-time price. 91,300 we hit this morning. And now we're back at 88.5. Like this is a crazy whipsaw. It's like the one we saw a week ago with a $10,000 God candle up and the next day 10,000 down. So you know other people are manipulating this, but if you do not have any, you got a little cash on the side, take advantage of these special offers. If you have Bitcoin 25% off, grab a bit, and I'll explain why. First, though, let's talk about this strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's a couple of things that came out of it, which for me were very positive. And you know, following from this channel, Solana doesn't need to be part of a strategic crypto reserve or Bitcoin reserve or anything else. It's doing fine on its own. It doesn't need that. But Bitcoin is special. It's gold 2.0. It's like a store of value. And a couple of cool things that came out of this from David Sachs, reiterated by Matthew Schultz. He said it's a Bitcoin only reserve. It'll be capitalized by Bitcoin only on behalf of the federal government. And also, it will not cost taxpayers a dime. Very important. This new regime in charge is all about money saving, cost cutting, because if not, the country will go bankrupt. And that's just mathematics. Second thing, buy more Bitcoin. Secretary of Treasury and Commerce are authorized to develop budget-neutral strategies for acquiring additional Bitcoin, provided these strategies have no incremental costs on American taxpayers. And there's 5 different ways they can do that. I won't break that all down now because it's really boring, but there's ways in which the government can actually reallocate funds that are already there to stack more Bitcoin. It's like Michael Saylor nearly 5 years ago having a bunch of cash on the balance sheet. What's he going to do with it? Is he going to buy gold? Is he going to buy stocks, treasuries, or Bitcoin? Same thing with the government. They got money lying around everywhere. And the most important thing, I was terrified when I heard names like ADA and XRP and all this stuff being potentially added to this treasury. I was like, no, it has to be Bitcoin only. Don't mess around, everybody. So no buying of poop coins, which is good news as well. So from that perspective, there's a lot of goodness. Next, Nick Carter, the legend, he announced it couldn't have gone better. Campaign promise kept. Bitcoin reserve clearly distinguished from altcoin stockpile. Bitcoin gets official USG seal of approval. No other coin has that. No taxpayer dollars spent. And of course, future acquisitions of costs likely left to Congress or in a neutral manner where they can pull the money in from other areas. And there's a whole bunch of that stuff lying around as well. So far, it wasn't a massacre, unless, of course, you had hope and you were one of these poop coins. Now, let's look at where we are in terms of the top countries that own Bitcoin. All of a sudden, USA is top of the list. This number, 207,189, includes some different baskets. The actual SBR number is about 200,000. There was rumors a couple of weeks ago that they lost some of it. I hope that's not the case. It'd be very embarrassing if the government did, but you never know what could happen. But the point is, the US now owns basically nearly 1% of the 21 million coins. And technically, there'll only ever be 15 million, as I've proven many times before. So it's a lot higher than that in percentage terms. Number 2 is China. So you can see the two big superpowers on the planet, USA and China, both have Bitcoin bags, and 200,000 is a lot. Can they get to 1 million? I don't know. That's one of the things that Saylor will try and propose today as well, because he's been smiling about it for 3 months now. UK has 61,000. Shout out to our friends in the United Kingdom. Ukraine, 46,000. Shout out to everybody in Ukraine as well. And Bhutan, 13,000. Bhutan are mining a lot of Bitcoin. They've become one of the top miners on the planet. El Salvador, 6,000, and they've gone back to buying one a day, despite what the IMF think. And Finland is there, nearly 2,000. Woohoo. And Georgia, 66. And Germany, sadly, they sold their 50,000 Bitcoin. They may live to regret that. Anyway, there's other stuff too. I mentioned superpowers. This is from Nick Begish. He's a congressman. He said it's time for America to become the first Bitcoin superpower. And there's many ways in which a country can become a superpower. One is in terms of GDP, in terms of military strength, in terms of strength of the currency, strength of the technology or AI. There's many areas where the US has to become first. Can they with this? I'm not sure. But shout out as well to Senator Lummis, who was the first one in the government to plant a seed about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And she got her wish. So we'll see. But the point of this tweet, the reason I'm sharing it, is they're going to say something next Tuesday. What that is, I do not know, but big powers are in play behind the scenes. And remember, the big thing about this SBR is it got rubber stamped. Bitcoin is real. Okay, a top nation is stacking. What I care about, this now gets the attention of all the other nations around the world, ladies and gentlemen. That's what matters. This is the beginning of these dominoes, the beginning of the game theory really beginning to fall into place, which is awesome. So we'll see. And Jason Lowry, also a legend, had the joy of meeting him face to face late last year. He says, trust me when I say this is only the beginning. Okay. And we're all waiting for game theory. We're waiting for supply crunch. We know whoever is first wins. And it's all playing out. Anyway, moving on. David Sachs. We have the summit today. It's happening, I think, at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is in about 1 hour and 5 minutes. That's why I'm doing this early, so I can watch this summit. I wouldn't mind sitting at the table because there will be some mixed opinions. But remember, has anybody ever tried being in a meeting with more than 6 people? The answer is it's just a bunch of talking heads spitting out hot air, okay? Small meetings, like a SEAL Team 6, small, get stuff done. And that's what David Sachs is referring to here. It's a round table. It's not a who's who of crypto. No, they want it small to have that meaningful conversation. Saylor is there and a couple of other key players. So I'm excited to see what falls out of that too. Again, we'll see. Hey, Polly, I hope that's true. I'm actually not looking at the chart now, but maybe I should see if anything's happening out there in the world. We will talk about Solana in a minute too. It is actually. Solana just spiked 4%. You're right, Polly. Thank you. Who still has money left? Always have cash on hand right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm probably the heaviest I've been in cash. Ooh, probably since close to the last bear market. Anyway, moving on. Tom Lee. Shout out to Tom Lee, fellow alum. Bitcoin is a $2 trillion asset. No time in history has a $2 trillion asset ever disappeared, ever vanished, ever gone to zero. Excuse my type one, vanished. It's a new word. Hey, Ron. It's Friday. My hands aren't what they used to be. Anyway, this is good news. And with this blessing, I have to emphasize this again. The rubber stamping of Bitcoin by the US government is massive news. So it was not a massacre. It's a very big event. And those that understand how big it is will get it. So those that don't will, a lot of people want Bitcoin to go to $1 million tomorrow so they're rich. It's not how it works. Now, I spent some time earlier this week talking about global liquidity, and this is a great chart from Bitcoin Magazine Pro, and I will continue to share this because remember, when global M2 grows, when global liquidity grows, it floats all boats. For those of you who are getting disillusioned out there in the market, and I know it's hard, markets are designed to wreck your head. Do not let them wreck your head. That's how you win. Supercell Man, thank you. Soul news coming for you in a minute. Global liquidity has continued to increase. However, Bitcoin has struggled to rally. So if you look at the blue, that's global liquidity. If you look at the black, it's kind of flat, which means Bitcoin is going to pump. It always does, but there is a lag, ladies and gentlemen. And this chart shows you that exact lag. Is global liquidity versus Bitcoin with the 2-month lag. And look at how it follows. Again, the white line is global liquidity. The other one is the candles on Bitcoin price backdated 2 months or front dated 2 months. Front dated because, again, Bitcoin lags the liquidity. All right. So think of those two lines just move, shoving Bitcoin 2 months into the future. That's where we are now. It's going to pump. There are times as well. What's really important to note as well, there are certain macro events that impact things. We're going through a little bit of pain right now that we've anticipated for a long time. The macro sucks. They're trying to reset some stuff, which means things will break. Things will be put under pressure. People will get nervous, but you need to break a few eggs to make an omelet, as they say. And that's the period we're going through right now. But money is coming. M2 is coming. Global liquidity is coming. And that will float all boats, especially now with this huge Bitcoin rubber stamp that we have. So watch this space. I'll come back in 2 months and we'll share the same chart. Now, another very interesting factor is shout out to Nick at Econometrics. I used to track the ETFs daily for a year, and then I was like, yeah, okay, no more. It's too much work. And it doesn't really matter anymore because there are different buyers. Okay, this chart shows you the different buyers that are out there, which is kind of interesting. And I always speak of, okay, there are times when the ETFs sell. The ETFs typically like to sell off bottoms. They're bottom sellers, panic sellers, whatever you want to call them. But here, according to this chart, per Nick's model, it shows Bitcoin trading at 88,000 right now, 88.5 as we speak, 88.7, depending on the second you look at the chart. But considering how much the ETFs have sold off, this model estimates the price should be 74,000 for Bitcoin. Okay, but it's not. Okay, what does this tell you, ladies and gentlemen? It tells you there is another buyer out there grabbing the Bitcoin because Bitcoin has not followed the ETF selling. Again, another piece of good news. What happens when TradFi comes back and they start stacking Bitcoin through ETFs? That's another tailwind, like liquidity, like global M2, etc. Now, I did talk about some of the pain, and it's great to have somebody like Scott Bessent in there because he knows money, he knows macro, he knows markets. And I always say that if it wasn't for the extreme government spending over the past 4 years, GDP would be 7% lower, i.e. it would be negative like -4, -5%, depending on the quarter you measure it. But he said the market and the economy have become hooked, become addicted to excessive government spending, and there's going to be a detox period. We're going through that right now. This is from Geiger Capital. And that pain will be there, but it'll be short-lived. Sometimes you've got to go through a little pain to get through to the other side, which will be extremely positive. So what I'm trying to urge people to do here is be a little bit patient, okay? Be patient when it comes to getting the returns that you need. Now, this is the US crypto and US policy map. It's kind of interesting because it's proven a lot of people were very excited that, things like XRP and Cardano and Avalanche and all this stuff, and Doge maybe would be in attendance at the White House meeting, or included in a reserve. None of that's happening, and I personally am very relieved about that. I'll stress that again. But there are a couple of things that do stand out in this, and one is certain things have their own little sector on their own. You'll see Solana does, Avalanche does, but the blockchain projects to attend the White House, it doesn't matter anymore, so you can take that away. What really matters is which chains are being used, and that's what matters. Now, first of all, 1 million Solana just left Kraken. Shout out to Kraken and anybody uses it. I don't, but I probably should. But this means these things are either going to be staked or cold storage. Normally, when a whole bunch of crypto goes to an exchange, it's bad news. When it leaves, it's good news. Again, we'll see what happens. But big things will happen for Solana in 2025. That I can assure you. Also, let's check in on our crypto valuations. This is the market cap of all the top cryptos divided by daily transactions. And when you have a big blue candle, it's not a good sign. Basically, Cardano now is valued at $700,000 per transaction. Polkadot, $535,000 per transaction. These valuations are completely ludicrous. I can't read the other one there. It's hidden. Hold on. I gotta move something around so see. Make sure I get the names right. Boop, boop, boop. There's me. Yeah, the other one, Ethereum, 200,000 a transaction. ICP, 110,000 a transaction. Stacks, 98,000. Stacks used to be top of this list. Now that's changed around. So that means they have more activity on the chain. Now, in terms of other names that are doing pretty well, you'll see names like Sui, 1,850 per transaction. Sol, 1,300 per transaction. Optimism, 1,751. Elrond, 1,786. Avalanche, 15,000. Oops. Arbitrum has gotten very cheap, but it's sold off so bad last year and it continues to sell off this year too. Again, everybody's waking up to the fact that these layer twos, which we got out of years ago, are not good. And that's clear because they are dependent on the mothership, which is Ethereum, which also hasn't gone very far. Again, it's at the same price it was 4 years ago, which is shocking. Anyhow, we always check in on that every week to see what's happening and see which things are completely overvalued. And I don't know how long the Cardano thing will stay up there, but it is ridiculous. There was a lot of hope and excitement that Cardano would be part of the summit and part of the reserve. Not the case. And just a quick reminder too, 80% of everything happens on Solana. This is from DUNE. And they look at their on-chain analysis, looks at the level of adoption across everything, taking into account metrics like transaction fees, transfer volumes, number of transactions, number of users, all that good stuff. And Solana now handles 80% of all blockchain use. Okay, 80%. And number two, Bitcoin, 5% of all activity. It's no coincidence they're my two biggest crypto holdings, and of course, crypto proxies like MicroStrategy. So, again, follow the data. But again, one chain does it all. And it's only a matter of time, ladies and gentlemen, before the market recognizes this. But people don't really study fundamentals in crypto yet. That will change when people start getting smarter in crypto. Anyway, stocks this week are very weak, brutal across the board. Nvidia down 12%. Tesla down 11%, Amazon down 8%, all the JP Morgan down 9%. I mean, it's just darkness out there, with the exception of Procter & Gamble and stuff like that. Even Walmart is considering leaving Delaware. Shout out to Walmart. Yay. Delaware is not the place where you want to be if you run a company. They are not on your side. They want to control you. Leave. Get out. Back in the day, all the VCs urged startups to set up in Delaware, despite being in California, because it was a friendly environment. It no longer is the case. Anyway, stocks are very weak, a lot of nervousness out there, and that will continue for a while. We might be in this, turbulent waters through March, through April. Maybe, we'll see. If the old adage is sell in May, go away. If things are tanking in March and April like they've been in Feb, then that might be different this year. We shall see. Also, proxies snap back. all of a sudden, I jumped into Marathon when it was at 1.09. Now it's at 1.34. Big move in Marathon. But you'll see as well, SMLR is now top of the list at NAV premium 1.25. That means basically, if you invest $1 in SMLR, you're getting 80 cents a Bitcoin for that dollar. Real simple chart. So MicroStrategy, the premium's gone up again, 1.7. That was below 1.5 a few days ago. Crazy. Jay Weirs, thank you for coming as well. And that's the list that we keep track of every day. Now, back to stocks and back to some of the craziness happening in the world. This is the German Bund, the interest on their coupons that exploded. Why? Because Germany will follow the Chinese on printing excessive money because of reasons we covered earlier in the week. But the reason this is interesting is you can just show the correlation between these types of macro indicators. The German 10-year yield spikes to its highest level since the 80s, or late 80s, call it 1990. That's madness. And the impact of the money printer on stocks. When the stock market finds out, oh, money printer is going up, the German DAX goes up too. Very simple. Because people know this is why you have to have hard assets. Money printer, liquidity, M2, all that stuff floats all boats, including now the German stock market. So I hope for our German friends, they have a lot of German stocks because they did well. Anyway, stocks also had the worst week since the US election. You can see Wall Street here. Horrible week, worse since the 3rd of September. Brutal. So if you're feeling pain when you look at your stock market portfolio, don't blame yourself. Everybody is getting hurt. And that's the way markets work. But that's why you have cash. That's the time to buy and deploy and take advantage of cheap stuff. Anyway, a little bit of bad news too before I wrap. We are having now the most in the US, the most job cuts in 5 years is on the way. This is US employers that plan to cut the most workers since 2020. And 2020 was a bad time due to C19. And that is not good. So everybody be careful out there. Just prepare yourselves for what could happen. Start thinking about new career paths and or else excel at your job and then you'll be totally fine as well. But this is also probably triggered by not only the macro, but also the AI revolution that's happening. Final meme of the day. This is the Altcoin SBR. Look how they massacred my strategic Bitcoin reserve. No, they didn't. They massacred your altcoin bag, not Bitcoin, even though people might feel different. That's kind of the big joke right now. Bitcoin still 88.3, not really moving a lot, but we're going into the weekend and they typically can be good. So we'll see what happens. Hey, Batman, I want to thank everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show and have a great weekend. I'll see you all tomorrow, recapping all the big stuff, all the big news you missed over the week. Thank you all for coming. Thanks again, TND Tesla, Sean Donnelly, K8, the whole gang, everybody for turning up. Hang tough, everybody. We have more Storm to go. And then with the lag of liquidity, Bitcoin should pop. If history repeats, which it typically does. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.